Let's talk about these NPAs. Maxwell Frost was talking about Tom Keene winning 65 to 70% of NPAs. How many NPAs, no party affiliation people, are we talking about in Florida in terms of a percentage? How big a deal is this?
Oh, wow. It's quite a large number. I mean, NPAs are the largest growing political segment that we have in the state. And so it's simply not possible to win an election without them. But the good news is that many of them want to vote with us, just like they did in that special election. They want candidates who are going to protect their freedom in these personal medical decisions.
Beth Matuga, who is the general consultant for the Florida House Democratic Campaign's District 35 special election, wrote a blog post about the success the Democrats had in flipping that seat. Republicans, I'm reading from it, Republicans have also generously handed us a potent and unique combination of pocketbook and social issues that combine into their very own kryptonite: abortion and property insurance. I can scarcely remember a more effective 1-2 punch for NPAs, no party affiliation, and some GOP voters. Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the evolution in Florida into a place that is now going to welcome Democrats who come in and say, we have a better solution to kind of everything that the Republicans in the state are touching.
Yeah, well, for too many years, Florida has become an incubator for extremism. We've got book bans, we've got the abortion bans, not one, but two of them, right? Like, we've lost the right to teach history accurately. So there's a lot going on here, and people are paying attention. When it comes to the personal medical decision of abortion, really, the Republican candidates have disqualified themselves on that because they don't even want to talk about it. But here we have Democrats who are willing to protect everyone's freedom, and not just Democrat freedom, right? Everybody's freedom across the board. Meanwhile, you look at the affordability crisis. I mean, Florida has the highest property insurance rates in the nation. So we're able to disqualify the Republicans on abortion, but then come in with affordability solutions. And that is the powerful 1-2 punch that Matuga was talking about.
I was just talking to Marilyn Lands about this in Alabama, where the things that Republicans are doing in Alabama are causing people who consider themselves traditionalists, conservatives, Republicans in Alabama to say, this is too much. We're not interested in this. Tell me about Florida and how that's working. What's the relationship between people who identify as Republicans, but who are prepared to say, we need a different plan here?
Right. Well, you can look at the ballot initiative that's going on right now to try to protect access to freedom, to reproductive freedom. And we refer to it as Yes on 4. And this is an initiative that collected over 1 million petitions from Floridians, right? Not just Democrats, but Republicans and NPAs. So the people of Florida have spoken very clearly in terms of what they want. Now we just hope that the Florida Supreme Court will listen. We know that in my caucus, we believe that every Floridian deserves the freedom to be healthy, prosperous, and safe. And that's what we will continue to fight for this November and beyond.
Florida is always an interesting place to follow. Since the time that Barack Obama won Florida, the politics and the behavior of the politicians there has changed a lot. Tell me about what the shape of the effort to reclaim Florida looks like for Democrats. Is abortion going to be central to that attempt?
I think abortion is going to be central to every conversation because it's top of mind for people. We saw what happened in Alabama with that IVF decision, and folks said, whoa, what is happening here? And we were like, yes, this is the quiet part that they don't want to say out loud. They don't want to just stop at abortion, right? Like, now they're looking at contraception and other things. So yes, it will be central to every conversation. I really do hope that the Florida Supreme Court listens to the will of the people, that they look at this ballot language, which is simple and elegant, and that they approve it and allow Floridians to have their voices heard at the ballot box. But yes, absolutely. In each of these House races, we are going to have to talk about the issues that matter most to voters. That's what we did in the special election. So we talked about abortion. We talked about affordability, especially in the name of property insurance. And that's what the community wants to hear. So we have to deliver solutions for them.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.